Hello. In this video, I want to talk about another favorite topic of mine, which is difficult planetary placements, or in the actual language of astrology, in terms of how they're technically or called. They're either planets in fall or planets in detriment. So if you don't know whether you have planets in fall or planets in detriment, then pause the video and you will see in the description below a list fall and detriment, as well as domicile and exaltation. I'll explain in a moment what they are. But just if you want to check whether you have any of the planets, Sun up until Saturn, including Saturn, in either fall or detriment, and then this will be particular of interest maybe to you. But actually, I'm really kind of using this topic to give you examples of how to use astrology to do shadow work in actual examples. So I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm not going to cover all the variation, the permutation, this fall or detriment or whatever. But I'm just going to pick a couple of you. But I want to just kind of show you how I work with the language of astrology and how I do shadow work working with the language of astrology. So you'll see each planet below has four categories or four placements. So there is domicile, which is like the home of the planet. So for the Sun, for instance, it's Leo. For Mars would be Aries, etc. So it's where they feel at home, most at home. Then exaltation is where the planet is exalted, meaning it's like particularly refined. It's more evolved. It's its higher expression, or highest even expression, some would maybe say. And then the other two are the opposite points to these. So opposite to exaltation point is fall, and opposite to domicile is detriment. So as you can see just already here, what are we talking about? We are talking about displacement. These planets are displaced. So just think of that concept when something or someone is displaced. It's an alien territory for them, but it's a given territory to you. So there is a beautiful kind of almost like a conflicting dichotomy, or I'm not sure if dichotomy is the right word, but in one way, although those energies to you, or rather, to you will feel like a conflict, right? For the planet in its sign of fall or detriment, whatever it is your case, that's its home. In your life experience, that's all that you know. When we are born, if you were born in an alien placement, that's your home. And you may feel alien because no one looks like you, no one speaks your language or whatever, but it is your home. You will kind of have to make it your home. So that's the gift of these planets. It's an incredible opportunity to reconcile the unreconcilable, to turn discomfort, profound discomfort and conflict into your version of empowerment, into your truth, to make peace with it, to bring it home, to turn it into a deeply satisfying way of being and living. But the road to getting to that place in your life with those planets, or rather with those archetypes, like I say, two at least, is treacherous. And I have three. I have Venus in Aries, Moon in Capricorn. They're squaring each other, so that kind of adds. So it's like, particularly when they're squared by another planet, and particularly if the other planet, either square or opposition, is in either detriment or fall, it's a even great opportunity. And it's almost like inevitable. Like I say, you cannot not do it. But even without the aspects of this kind of square opposition, it's still something you will work on for the rest of your life. Now, the danger there is that when we are born into this alien territory, we can just assume that these feelings of displacement are home. I actually would say two things here. First, that don't dismiss it too quickly, that's a bad thing in itself, as I'll show you in a moment. But equally, don't allow yourself to get used to something that is actually bad for you, and just because you kind of got used to it, but it's bad for you, right? So that's a kind of an example, to go dark, of I think it's called the Stockholm syndrome. So when an abductor, abuser, whatever, abducts a child from a family, and then there was recently a documentary on Netflix. This young girl who was abducted in Vienna, in Austria, in Europe. Natasha Kapushka, something like that. I'm not sure. Anyway, and basically this kind of adaptability that we have, like the survival basically instinct, right? We will just make do with that and struggle to actually escape, as she speaks of, because it becomes the norm. So, but at the same time, like I'll show in a moment, there will be parts of that alien environment in this example of abducted life, that actually will be a natural home, will be the kind of home that does make you feel good. I'm not talking about the abducted girl now. I'm just talking about, Venus in Aries or Mars in Cancer or something. So it's a fine line, and like I say, I'll show you in a moment in an example. But before I go into the actual example of how the shadow work example, I want to just kind of, through my own example, speak a little bit to the journey that you kind of are set on until you arrive at that point, and now you just have to be doing intentionally your shadow work relating to those two archetypes. And it's always at least two, or if you have a conjunction, or like I say, square and opposition, then the others are brought in. But it's always at least two, because it's like I say, the planet in a sign. So the displacement and the sense of not belonging, being far away from where it's comfortable, comes from kind of two things, but I think they're in a way the same thing. So let's talk about Venus in Aries, right? So Venus in Libra would be the Venus at home. And Venus in Libra is what the society has decided it's a comfortable place for Venus. When I say society, I don't mean our society now. I don't even mean 19th century society. I don't even mean, 6th century BC society. I mean mythical society, or the society of the myths, right? So what I mean by that is that myth is a social instruction. So it's a story being told around in this example of Venus, a story about a woman, a young woman. So it's not a mother, it's not a wife, it's a woman, for desires, for pleasures, for men, or maybe other women, whatever. But it's a particular kind of woman, this Venus, and the society has decided that that's how she should fit into the society, with these functions, with these qualities, with these with these, what's the word? Traits is the word I was looking for. So let me just briefly touch on the Venus Aphrodite myth, the ones from Botticelli's painting, for instance. You can, Botticelli, Venus, Birth of Venus, I think it's called. Essentially, she is, and this is a story that is echoed then in the Bible, in Eve, in the second wife, not the first wife. So both Eve and Venus were born out of flesh, or rather a bodily part of a male. In Venus' story, it's the genitalia of her father. I'm not even gonna go there. But and in terms of Eve, in the case of Eve, biblically speaking, she's out of is the rib of Adam. I mean, I'm not really up on the Bible, but yeah. So it's I'm sure it's that rib of Adam's rib. So there you go, just there at the very beginning of this Venus story, or Venus right here, planet, Aphrodite, Venus, but also Eve echoing it. It's the archetype, it's the archetype of disempowerment, meaning, or codependency, actually, more so, which is a disempowered place. Well, there is power in it, but it's codependent power. And great power, in fact, wars have been fought based on this codependent power. But you see what I mean? So she was not born independent, and independent of men particularly. But that, again, it's like a heterosexual, mythological Christian something, whatever. That is not really the point, whether it's what sex it is. It's that there is that attraction, and there is that purpose of this archetype, this Venus, right? To be there for beauty and pleasure. And she only has that sense of herself, either that she's beautiful or that she's desirable, and pleasurable and pleasant and pleasing, because others tell her so. And she's depicted in throughout the art world, kind of iconography of Venus is mirror. And there's Rubens is one of the, you can just do Venus with mirror, you'll see many paintings, meaning she lives to be seen and to be reflected back on. That's how she knows she exists, or she's beautiful, she's desirable. So this myth is how this Venus has found her home in Libra as an archetype. This myth informs this decision, if you like, a decision made by the society. But like, that's what I mean, not even our society or our parents or grandparents, like far back, beginning of time or whatever. There's also Venus in Taurus there, very much so, with the pleasure piece and desire and all that. And the codependency is more kind of Libra. So they're both, intertwined. But that's why they live in those, and so that's why they're allocated those homes of Taurus and Libra. But myth points to the shadow expressions of both of these placements. And yet, in astrology, they're called home, because this is what she's been primed and she's been conditioned for millennia to be comfortable in those roles. So when you have Venus in either Scorpio or Aries, and I'm only talking Venus, and this applies to every single planet, so look to the myth, figure out what's the shadow expression of that planet, and you'll find that's the home that, astrologically speaking, it's called. And then the opposite placement is detriment or exalted places, as I said at the beginning. Like I said, I'm not going to go into the technicalities here too much, but I just want to show you the method, at least my method, how I worked with my Venus in particular, but I used for my moon as well, and for any other planet and transits and aspects and all that, is I start with the myth to actually kind of be presented with the buffet table full of cold slices of shadow land of that particular home. So then if you look at the opposite placement based on these expectations and criteria and social instruction, like I say, it's everything that this Venus must not be, because that's not okay. The society will not accept her being Aries-like or Scorpio-like. I'll just quickly, came to me, I'm going to share it. I'll never forget this moment. I can't remember how many years ago, but when Hillary Clinton was, I think she was against Trump in terms of the presidential elections, and I'm so not political, well, I haven't been for a long time. But I do remember this because they said, and it was an astrologer's comment somewhere in papers or whatever, that she's struggling to be liked because she has Venus in Scorpio. And I remember thinking, wow, I can see why they said that, and I can see how that is playing out to be true. Well, I don't know. I don't know how one proves that, but she wasn't elected, and she certainly had all kinds of, from what I remember, bad press and just yeah, I remember articles about particularly women not liking her, and that was always particularly contentious and all that. Venus in Scorpio again is in fall, and Venus in Aries is the difference between the two. Just briefly before I kind of come back to Hillary's example of Venus, unlikable Venus in Scorpio by the public allegedly. So Venus in Aries is all the things bad press that Aries has. It's true. The thing that redeems Aries every time is the innocence, in the sense of there is no malice in Aries. It's just not that it's not evolved, but kind of it's just like a toddler. It can be angry and furious, but the next second it forgets. There's no motive there, like a deep-seated motive to harm and to do all kinds of stuff. Scorpio, on the other hand, is far more evolved. So it's like however many signs, 8 something, of the journey of the soul evolution. So this Venus is far more self-aware, and that self-awareness acts as a mechanism of self-protection and self-projection and projection and direction and conduct and act and action, meaning there are various and many motives and layers that some of them are maybe not so likable, others are likable more, and not to mention Venus is full of, Scorpio is the basement, as in not, it's THE basement, or the cave where there is the shadowland, the darker, the deeper area of our psyche, the scary parts of our psyche, the ones that no one really wants to look at. And Scorpio knows that, so he won't flaunt it, but it's a Scorpio, so you can't, they carry it around it, and it's partly their appeal, or also reason for some to be put off by them because they're scared of that. So imagine this Venus, who, as I described earlier in the story of the myth and how she's meant to be loved and be the source of pleasure and likable and pleasant and beautiful and peaceful and calm and yeah, I'm just thinking quickly of other things that are not coming, so I'm just gonna stop here. Now lives in this underworld of Scorpio world. It's not gonna be sitting with society well, hence the alleged dislikes of the public of Hillary Clinton, because the Venus has dared to step out of her allocated role, and not just that, she decided to bring out stuff that no one ever goes to look. Who goes to the basement to look at, or attic or whatever kind of is a good metaphoric place of one's household where no one wants to go into their cupboard and look into those skeletons, right? There she is, the Venus who we gave this amazing beautiful role to play in our lives. Now in Scorpio, all of a sudden doesn't want to play by the rules. Equally in Aries, doesn't want to play by the rules. Cannot. No, maybe I should rephrase this, particularly for Aries, maybe even for Scorpio. We do want to play by rules. It makes our life easier if we play by rules, but we don't know how. We don't get those rules. Those rules don't make any sense to us. So your planet in fall or detriment will not make sense of the domicile position or where that planet is meant to feel at home, because you go, that's what you call home? Really? I don't get. Why is that comfortable? Why is that pleasant? And yet you dare not say that, because the majority of the world actually speaks in terms of that being pleasant. So you sound a freak, you sound odd, you sound an oddball, you're not, you're going to be not accepted, you're going to be rejected for it. But having a natal planet in any of these fall or detriment means that that planet is at home in those placements. So your Venus in Scorpio is so at home in all things Scorpio. My Venus in Aries is so at home in all things Aries. But the world is not at home as easily, as comfortably with Venus in Aries and Venus in Scorpio, for instance. So this is what I meant like minutes ago when I said this kind of is the same point I'm making. I thought I'm talking about myth, and then I'm talking about, the society, but it's the same thing. Myth is the original society. And it's conditioning. It's the conditioning, and it's the Piscean age that I'm just gonna say this is the Piscean age story as well. So interestingly, Venus is exalted in Pisces. So, but Piscean age is also, discernment is not necessarily present. That's Virgo piece. Or if there is too much Virgo, then there is more likely to be criticism and judgment and, or like I say, confusion. Or not confusion is not so much Pisces. It's more like the lines are blurred, and the sort of victimhood is far more valued than not, than standing your own ground and being brave and not being a victim. Meaning, add these things into the mix of the mythology around Venus, and then in its home of Libra and Taurus, and then in its not home in Scorpio and Aries. Add this to that mix. So the dominant narrative will be in support of placements that don't rock the boat. And yet you, with these placements, with your planets in either fall or detriment, are meant to rock the boat in whatever those areas of your life, these planets, sit in. So everything I just described, I spent however many minutes describing, is essentially me describing the shadow landscape of your natal placement, fall or detriment. So you're either in the shadows yourself, meaning you're keeping this Venus in Aries or Venus in Scorpio, or in the shadows so that no one sees it, because whenever they had a glimpse of it, you got judgment, you got rejected, you felt unaccepted, you felt wrong, you felt bad, basically, shamed, guilty. So either you're living in there, or others in the shadows. Or others are projecting their shadows because they can't make peace and can't accept, or don't know how, just don't have examples, they've been conditioned. We've been all conditioned. You're probably doing this, I'm doing this to someone else's fall and detriment because that's my shadow I'm projecting onto them. But the society, and I use this word kind of loosely here, just as a kind of external world, really, as a shorthand for that, is projecting their shadow onto you by calling you bad and by just unaccepting you because, hey, Venus is meant to be either Libra or Taurus. Those are her natural vibes and energies, and she's lovely to be with and around, and she plays an important role in this society as such. But when it's in those detriments, in this case, or falls, in Virgo would be fall. Sorry, I forgot to mention Virgo as well. Then the world, the society, just is not really happy with her. So this is where the shadow work comes in, that you then need to do, because you don't want to live like this, and no one does. That's why we do the work that we do, because it's miserable and unhappy. Although yes, you can get used to that and get comfy in that, but I don't think for long. So the shadow work comes in now. So I want to use an example of Moon in Capricorn. My, again, Moon in Capricorn, I want to actually show you, which is what I always wanted, and I think this is the closest I'm going to get this side of New Christmas or New Year, or this year rather, literally how I do it. So I'm going to take you through, give you an actual example of how I would approach. So I'm using Moon in Capricorn just to mix it up a bit, so giving another example. And this is that book that I always talk about by Renn Butler, The Archetypal Universe. And so I'm going to be using that book to show you how I would work. So in the book, so Moon Saturn would be Moon in Capricorn, because Saturn is Capricorn, Capricorn is Saturn, and Moon is Moon, right? So Moon in Capricorn is, you'd look for Moon Saturn combination. But this would go, I'm just using this an opportunity to kind of explain a little bit about how I work with that particular book, because it's an unusual book. But really, whenever you read about Moon in Capricorn or any of the fall or detriment, you will see all the negative stuff as well as positive stuff, as per the mythology of the times we live in, our current mythology. Mythology is a social instructions of how to behave, moral code, right? So the good stuff and the bad stuff. So the principle is the same. I'm just kind of explaining extra if you're using this book that I highly recommend. So, there are two, So there are two sections that are clearly defined and that are the most important in the Renn Butler's book. There are a few sections within each of these pairings or triplings, but the two that you want to be focusing on the most is character and themes, which is the sort of light expression of that combination, in this case Moon in Capricorn, Moon Saturn. This could also be Saturn in Cancer, which is another detriment. And then you'd have a section on shadow qualities. So personally, I start always with shadow qualities, or with a negative, because it triggers me. So it's like, that's my, that's where I'm headed. If something triggers me, I do not let it just disappear. I mean, I just stay with it. I want to get to the bottom of it. I'm like a dog with a bone until I figure out what's going on there. So I'll go straight to the shadow qualities. So let me just read some. So for Moon in Capricorn, a potential for being picky, fussy, fastidious, subject to very precise creature needs, hair trigger discomfort, familiar chronic complaints, attempts to purify oneself with strict dietary regimens. So this is one sentence full of goodies. So let me unpick it. So I know, as I'm reading even now, and that's the method that I, when I talk to my clients, when I speak on various, here on this platform, I always say, as much as you listen to what I'm saying, listen to your reactions to what I'm saying. And that's why, I have an eye, or rather an ear, always on my triggers, because that's my response to something. And that's my cue and clue where to look for shadow work. So when I'm reading negative shadow, explanation, shadow description of a placement, I am first and foremost noticing the triggers. So the triggers here, familiar chronic complaints, attempts to purify oneself with strict dietary regimens, and hair trigger discomfort. So, and what I mean by trigger is, when I read this, I'm almost like a mixture of a bit, because I'm doing it public, you saw my face probably, it was a bit like smirky because I'm a bit embarrassed that I'm publicly now declaring my very intimate moon, right, and very kind of personal shadow, right? But it's either discomfort, or it's anger, or it's, in my case, was a bit of discomfort, and like I said, anger, crying, any kind of not a good, expansive, empowering, positive energy, right? So anything negative in that sense would be a trigger for me. So then I know, and I'm currently, and I can hair trigger discomfort, and I have a particular, might as well share, since, it's only 6 minutes. I know this is many of various, I'm going to be putting it together. Can't remember, this will be probably an hour altogether long video. So hair trigger discomfort, I have a major issue with smells and food smells that are coming into my home, where I want to open the window to air, just bring some nice fresh air. And I'm talking heavy, like fry-ups or barbecue, or like really lovely food. Don't get me wrong, I would love to eat that, but I don't want, when I open my window to air my room, have that in the room, and in me as well. Anyway, so it's something so, I mean, it's maybe real in a sense that many can maybe it's not such a hair trigger, but it is, because I know what I do when it happens, and I'm not going to share that. Familiar chronic complaints. So, and I'm working on this. I'm like, I'm not going to be the prisoner of this for the rest of my life. And where we live, we kind of have, that's a side effect of this lovely new home we have. And I'm just like a dog with a bone with that. I'm working on this daily in one way or another. And as to how I'm doing that, that's also not for sharing. Not yet. The other piece is the familiar chronic complaints. So I'm very aware of that. And one of the complaints would be this one to do with food smells. And what was the third one? Attempts to purify oneself with strict dietary regimens. And it's again, so I'm not with the dietary regimens and my need to purify. I know I'm nowhere near kind of overcoming this, for this not to be a repetitive pattern that just kind of keeps me in the loop of going up and then going down and going up and going down. And it's okay, up and down is life and all that, but it's like I'm creating that loop. So I kind of don't want to, yeah, I don't know. No, like I say, but I'm conscious that that's my problem. So those are my kind of to-do lists, right? However, and this is really the piece, in the shadow qualities descriptions, this is why I say the shadow work for me is never been about becoming better overall, becoming whole, becoming, well, whole, yes, but not perfect, not rounded, not well, what's the word, adjusted or something. It's finding my own internal compass, following my own internal compass and finding my own peace and contentment, irrespective of someone else or the society, as I just said earlier. So what's considered to be a moon in Capricorn shadow, for instance, by this author who I respect greatly, so that's another piece, like you want to choose authors that you actually value and respect as opposed to just maybe someone you don't so much. A potential for being picky, fussy, fastidious, subject to very precise creature needs. I love that about me. I love it. I do. And I know it's, yeah, it can, irritate maybe someone, but no. It's, I have my deal with my partner, we have our ways, we have established how we work around each other's issues and shadows and all that. But I am fussy. I want that, and I love to live like that. I do. It suits me down to the ground. And I'm not going to apologize for it. And that's my sense of joy and peace. But the shadow work was, I felt for this long time, let's say, that's a bad thing. No, you don't do that. Oh, that's, that, no, that's bad. Where really, I enjoyed being fussy. I enjoyed, and I mean, there are no victims in my life. I don't have people who suffer because of me. Like I say, with the one person I'll even share my life with, I have a good understanding on all these topics. 22 years, yeah, we paved the way for this kind of life where we both can do our quirks and shadow and not really, make someone else's life miserable because of that. So if I had to live with other people, more so than just with one person, either even have a more kind of a normal social life, which I don't, then I would probably have to curtail and want to curtail, because if you want to be with other people more closely and more frequently, then you do have to compromise. Well, that's another video. But still, that's kind of the norm, and I find it's okay, it's acceptable. So you kind of want that person almost more than to indulge into this thing of yours. And if there is a conflict, then you just have to make a decision that, do I want more? Is it more important for me to be fussy and what else? Fastidious and picky and precise needs? Is that more important, or is it more important to actually be with X, Y, and Z on weekly basis for a few hours? Well, for me, that's not important. Being with anyone is not important as to be with myself, and that's again Moon in Capricorn, another one. So my point is, I'm happy with that. I'm so happy with it. And yeah, people are not necessarily wouldn't be if they had to spend more time with me. I don't need them to, so I'm okay with that. And I embrace this shadow and I wear it, and I used to be a people pleaser, when many of us are. That's another kind of, that's a Venus in Aries thing, that you kind of are learning that you should be a people pleaser because, or the society shadow, your kind of expression of that expectation of Venus is to be people pleasing, right? And then I learned and trained myself, or did my work, shadow work, whatever, that I absolutely had a period of good year of being positively unpleasant. So there is always that transition period where you have to almost flex your muscles against real people and real situation. Again, I was mindful of how far I go, but I enjoyed reveling in my power and ability to withstand people's disapproval faces that would send me scurrying and crying into the shadows of my own cave. when they disapproved of me not being so pleasant, not being agreeable, not being polite, whatever that means in someone else's world, for rejecting them or something. I reveled for about a year. I think I sought out positions and situations where I would be in a place where, and it was never aggressive, it was never really awful, but it was, you know, and these people wouldn't want to be my friends for longer, and I'm okay with that. But like I say, we kind of have to really practice this, which is why I do discomforting and witnessing. Well, not at the moment. Maybe some near future we'll do it live where it's even more effective, but I need to figure out how to do that better, or at all. But I do it like an email version of that, which is still better than nothing. But we kind of need to put ourselves in the arena and actually do it like any exercise. You need to flex those muscles of being able to withstand people's reactions to your shadow that you integrated and you love. A version of that, it was pretty maybe not presentable to begin with, but you kind of refined it, and it's still something not so acceptable for the society, but by now you are comfortable with it. So when you wear it, you actually exude confidence, and you can teach these people how to love that shadow, or just generally how to be comfortable with their shadow, inadvertently or indirectly, not by giving a preaching lecture, but just like being very comfortable in your own shadow. So this, like I say, piece about a year of being actively and positively obnoxious it's been wonderful. So it's kind of, shadow work will require work that is possibly, although I really hate using the M word, morality or morals, but that I wouldn't advise as an ongoing thing necessarily, because it was coming from a place of anger in me, but it needed to. There was no other way I was going to bring it out. The anger fueled me to give me courage to begin with, and I was quick, or at least as quick as I could have, aware that for the anger not to spill into anything beyond it, just like, almost like if you think of a stove, the fire burning underneath it is keeping it boiling, but it doesn't overspill. So it's like the cauldron or this pot is what's being handed around. It's your front, but you know those fires are making the bubbly noises of the boiling that are being heard, not necessarily seen, and that is giving some discomfort to other people. That is, but it's necessary. You have to do that to experience your shadow in response, as in how it's how others respond to your shadow, right? Your shadow in response to others. Is that? No, it's how others respond to your shadow, sorry. The next sentence: ongoing crankiness and crabbiness, resentment and hard feelings, a tendency for cold efficiency and overwork to replace warm human contact. Now, all of this is my shadow, certainly has been. But equally, what I've learned, what I've done is, this hasn't stopped being me. And I let it be me. I don't nurture it, I don't, but it's actually sometimes really helpful. So my cold efficiency has got me out of some ruts, work-related mostly. And yeah, you know, I wasn't particularly liked in the office maybe that day, but so what? It's not the end of the world, really. So, but I'm aware of it, and like I say, I know, and I will often, I certainly in my private life, personal life, with my partner, it's just the way this is how I live it on that most intimate level, and this is Moon we're talking about. So I would just say to him, look, I'm so pissed off about something, or something has triggered me, has nothing to do with you. I'll I'll ignore me. I'll keep away from you, meaning I'll just stay in one room or something. I mean, I will not take it out on him. And I, again, try not to take it out on those people like in the office, but if I'm coldly efficient, I know that they felt that coldness, and I was just being like, almost robotically like, yep, that goes there, yeah. So they can see my, you know, that's fine. Again, in my book, that's fine. And that's the piece. You have to keep coming back to you to know that it's fine by you. because it's your moral code. It's, who is to say that you haven't literally hurt anyone, that someone might cry that night because you looked at them wrongly. It's their time to grow up and do their own shadow work. Why are they so triggered by you? That's the kind of work. That's at least in my books. That's how it works. Then, so I know all these are, what I just read, are all shadows, and I certainly am prone to them. But knowing that they are, I'm just not dishing them out left, right, and center, taking it out on other people. I'm kind of owning them, and as much as I can, announce that it's a bit tough for me now. This is what you can expect. Nothing personal. Just if you can just ignore me, kind of not take it personally. I'll be out of it soon. Just give me a moment. I need to go through this motion because I do, right? The other piece is particularly actually important, I think. So a negative or constricting view of one's home and family, hardness and disharmony in the home, feelings of emotional hunger. So why I said this was important is, and this is kind of this is astrology particularly relevant. So moon is home, and moon in Capricorn is the furthest away one can get from home, the home of birth or the home of parents. So when it says here a negative or constricting view of one's home and family, I say this is a healthy expression of moon in Capricorn. This is moon in Capricorn knowing like no bullshit, kind of hard reality view of one's family, and stripped of all the frills and all the in all its dysfunction, and I certainly have been through this. I mean, this is definitely my story, and I remember, and I got this point of realizing very young. And they say, like, you kind of are a parent to your children, parent to your parents. And I used to say that, literally those words were my words with my sibling. And I said, we're now their parents, aren't we? Look at them. And okay, now I'm at a place where I love them dearly, but I keep my distance because that's as much as I can, to support myself and to be true to myself. But there's all the forgiveness and compassion for them completely. I've been most of it, really. My point is, a negative or constricting view of one's home and family, it starts like that, and it is still kind of negative in the sense they are, quite dysfunctional in so many ways. So that is maybe negative, but it's true. And moon in Capricorn is the realist. So I got this reality very quickly on, and I'm not going to apologize. I don't want to take it as a shadow. Maybe it's not even meant in this way. Don't forget, this is me interpreting an interpretation of moon and Saturn. So like, Chinese whispers as well, which is why I talk about language when I do talk about it the way I do. But so negative constricting view of one's home and family, hardness and disharmony in the home. So hardness in the home of dysfunctional home and family is actually great when you're young, because it keeps you safe. But if you choose to stay in their family or be close to them physically, and in order to stay safe within their vicinity, you still harden, then you are in shadow. Because, and this is again back to this, is it good for you and for your health, emotional and physical, to be like that or not? Well, it's not, because you're hardening something that it's just essentially, by hardening yourself like that, because you're choosing as a grown-up still to be in the vicinity of your parents that actually in reality you find toxic. Well, you need to take ownership and responsibility for this realization, reality, Saturn, Capricorn, right? And act on it, be responsible. You have the ability to respond adequately to this situation, i.e. remove yourself. So therefore you won't have to keep hardening yourself, because you choose to remove yourself from the positions that require you to be hard so that you can be safe. So you see what I'm saying? Being hardened within your family is not a bad thing if your family is toxic. But to stay there forever because, you keep hoping your parents are going to change, or they're going to become the grown-ups that you always wanted them to be, but won't, they won't, is you being stuck in the shadow as described here. Sorry, here's another great one. Moon in Capricorn still, obviously. That's the only example I'm going to do because otherwise it will be forever here. So this is still reading the shadow section, right? And that's all I'm doing. Feelings of homesickness and lost connection with one's roots, anguish and sorrow, sadness and regret, sense that loneliness is one's generic state, an experience of other people as ships that pass in the night. I should have probably said and reminded everyone that my moon is out of bounds at its furthest out of bounds, so that may have just kind of helped here, or rather certainly informed how I work with, particularly with this moon in Capricorn shadow section. So maybe bear that in mind. Meaning it's like in Capricorn and then doubly in Capricorn, it's that kind of how removed from its natural moon in Cancer placement my moon is. But it just reminded me because it's talking about loneliness and these ships that pass in the night. I'm like, yes, that's the ideal. That's wonderful. I'm so excited. I love seeing the whole world, meaning I would love to meet every human being on this planet at least once. Literally, I so would. I don't want to connect with them. I don't want to be friends with them. I don't want to see them tomorrow. I just want to connect in passing. I mean, that's a dream come true for me. So it's a shadow, and yes, it does speak to this generic loneliness inherent in the sense of your internal, deeply private, intimate world. But I find that to be the most wonderful place to be. And yeah, so to me, this shadow, again, is the shadow badge that I wear with honor, greatest honor, because it makes me so happy. And there is this other channel I had, and I might link it here, where I talk, another YouTube channel where I really kind of talk about all these themes, and I will be talking about in my Dharma materials more coming in the coming weeks and months, about all these themes. But yeah, so my point here again, so regret is another kind of bad shadow word, right? And this loss of connection. And I have been plagued by the two, the regret of loss of connection. I'm not even sure what connection that is, but it's a general connection. It is essentially with the source and all that, but still in my real life, day to day, and I have so much earth and I really talk about my day-to-day life as opposed to spiritual life, mostly is, I battled with this. But that's the beauty of shadow. It's like, and fall and detriment. It throws you into that world of shadows and darkness. So you have to battle with these forces, but you become wise about them. So I love that I experienced these feelings, that I really felt them, that they were so deeply, they deeply penetrated me. And in doing so, and infused me, and I lived in them for long. So I know what regret feels like. And I may well have some by the time I'm on my deathbed. And that's another topic and another video, which I actually have on this other channel, and I might link into here. But yeah, so the shadow piece, you see, it's actually, you find so much of your truth in there. And the shadow title, a label rather, is because the world is uncomfortable with sadness and regret. Potentially, again, this is no comment on Renn Butler, whatsoever. No idea what he meant, but this is how I'm taking it. And the sadness and loneliness is, anathema, no. There are things about, loneliness being, and although loneliness and aloneness, I'm actually kind of talking about aloneness more than loneliness, although I felt both and certainly love aloneness. But even loneliness, there is something beautiful about feeling lonely. There is something beautiful about feeling lonely. And, but yeah, the science will tell you that it's to do with heart, the loneliness is the reason we die early, or we, have heart disease. And I even tempered with that and consider that because I had some and still do some heart problems, but they're not apparently problems. Actually, my heart is good, just whatever. Anyway, my point is, all these feelings, if we see them as bad and feel that badness as we go through them, that's the only badness. But if, like I just said, if you can find beauty in loneliness, if you can find beauty in feeling regret, if you can find beauty in poignancy of being a human so fallible and full of regret and insecurities, another Moon in Capricorn thing, and yeah, weaknesses, whatever, emotional weaknesses, let's say. I'm not really, anyway. If you can allow yourself to feel these shadowy expressions of your planets as per any book or this book, and find beauty in them, only to release it, maybe even just only to release it. You had some beauty, you had some good times with them, with these feelings, and then you're done with them. I like going back to them. I don't like to be stuck in them, so stuck is not good, because I don't like feeling stuck. Not because being stuck, maybe you love feeling stuck. Maybe you are, BDSM type of thing. You love being stuck, just kind of like a vice between two things, whatever. Anyway, you get what I mean. So then if that sense of being stuck gives you a sense of beauty, you love it, then that part of that shadow Moon in Capricorn would be your shadow that you will wear with a badge of honor. Like I wear loneliness, aloneness, sadness, melancholy. I love those feelings. But yeah, I don't like being stuck in them. So I know I'm in my shadow, in the sense that I'm doing this for the wrong reasons, and I'm essentially it's not healthy for me. And then I'm out, or I make myself get out. So this is the shadow piece in this particular book by Renn Butler, that I would always start with. That's my starting point, and I keep going back to that. But I don't just live in my shadows. And so what I do then, when I work with astrology and use it for my shadow work, I then go to the section which is, here it's called Character and Themes. I thought it had a different name. It's always Character and Themes. So it's the first kind of big chunk of the section under Principles. So you have a title of the pairing or the tripling, then you have Principles, and then Character and Themes. So Character Themes is where the light version or expression of that pairing is. So in my case, in the case of this example, Moon in Capricorn, the evolved expression, the higher expression of this pairing, of this detriment, Moon in Detriment placement, are quality of modesty and austerity, realism and practicality, conscientiousness and commitment, sincere care and concern, compassion tempered with realism, healthy boundaries, stable home. It says about parenting, which is not my thing. Hold on. Emotional identification with one's job, hard work as emotionally grounding and satisfying the structure of one's day. These are all like kind of semicolons. If when I'm reading it, it sounds weird. Professional relationships, a value placed on quality time, an appreciation of quality over quantity, a preference for serious, mature and established mates, partners. And my partner has Venus in Capricorn. An opportunity to learn the importance of human connection by experiencing painful isolation, suffering which evokes one's humanity. A gift for focused and sustained introspection, sober and objective self-observation, disciplined reflection on one's emotions, an ability to self-correct and take responsibility for one's feelings. So everything I just read here now has been some of this has been something I've achieved by the time I found this book. And I felt I have certainly arrived at this place by just doing my shadow work without using astrology in such a way. That's why I find this book so wonderful. But I have certainly, with my Venus in Aries and my Moon in Capricorn, since I can remember, I've been studying them, reading, not having some readings, but mostly self-taught, studying on my own, and then observing myself in relation to what I'm reading. As I describe, always like looking for my triggers and then digging deep, and then self-help and therapy certainly, and various other kinds of therapies, not outside of astrology, to actually deal with this Venus-Mars placement of my Venus and Moon placements in Detriment. So by the time I got to this book, I was already quite a few things here for, like, I was always focused and sustained introspection. Always. I mean, I could just be introspective. This probably helps that I'm Taurus as well. This kind of sustained ability to just stay in this kind of calm and not do, just be more than do. Be passive, right? Taurus is passive by yin being a yin sign, but also being Taurus, right? But like I say, it's Capricorn moon as well. A sober and objective self-observation, discipline, reflection, ability to self-correct and take responsibility for one's own feelings. Always, that has always been me. And so we have some of that light. It doesn't have to be hard work to get to that point. But an opportunity to learn the importance of human connection by experiencing painful isolation and suffering which evokes one's humanity were sort of, it was a sentence of a couple of sort of statements that were kind of newly phrased to me. I have not put them like that, and they gave meaning to my experiences and venturings into isolation, social isolation, introspection, solitude, what else, and my own suffering. And it gave words to what I was doing, gave context, it gave focus, and gave kind of like, why am I doing it? Or what's the good thing that will come out when I come out of the suffering, or when I come out of isolation. So the shadow piece. So what I mean by looking at these light expression of moon in Capricorn are my affirmations, if you like, is my vision, part of my vision. It's where I aim to be, what I want to improve, what I want to strengthen and nurture in me. What do I want to practice more? What do I want to orientate myself towards? It's like my north node. Yeah, even though it's not literally my north node, but my north star, right? What I'm heading towards. This is where I want my moon in Capricorn to land and to be at by now, and it is. So the suffering, the isolation, the loneliness, actually, and I can also vouch for this as well, has so helped me refine my sense of what it means to be well connected. I don't mean well connected kind of rich people and social influences or whatever. I mean for healthy and quality connections that feed moon, right? Feed me with the right, like eating healthy food that's particularly appropriate for me, for my body, for my internal organs, whatever, my type, however you want to say. So experiencing difficulties in connecting all my life, like this sense of loneliness and this sense of hardness and all the rest that I've read about in the shadow part of the book, has helped me to figure out how I like to connect and what kind of connections are meaningful to me. And so now I'm set. I really am set. And but it's been hard work. So to wrap up and conclude, basically this was the video about fall and detriment, and my essential and ultimate point, which I hopefully has illustrated with some hopefully interesting and practical tips you can use for yourself to work with these placements. Although I just remembered, I'm going to show you another example before I wrap it up. Actually, I won't. I'm okay. I'm done. We are done here. I thought I was going to bring something in, but actually it's not relevant as I thought it originally might be. So to wrap up, your planets in fall and detriment are truly your gifts. Truly your gifts. And you are meant to be doing. You're born to become a master shadow worker in that area of your life. So get down to the work, and one way of doing it I have hopefully illustrated just in this last section of this video. Literally, that I can't go more micro and show you exactly how I work and think, and yeah, it might just resonate with some of you and you might find it as a great tool to do the same. So yeah, like I say, it's a gift. It really is a gift. I just that's all I want to spread, that news, should it be news to you. Okay, till sometime soon next, I wish you a great Wednesday.